Hi, my name is Max and I'm presenting HexArcade predicting Hexad user types by using Gameful applications, which was done in collaboration with Gustavo Tondello, Antonio Krüger and Lennart Nacke. Past research has shown that personalization is essential for Gameful systems. However, when considering a Gameful app like, for example, a fitness application, a static set of Gameful design elements is mostly used, like for example leaderboards. So the question is, how could such systems be personalized? And besides different factors such as personality traits or demographic factors, past research has shown that the Hexad user types model is particularly suitable for this purpose. It consists of 6 user types, which differ in their degree to which they are driven by their needs for autonomy, competence, relatedness, and purpose, as defined by self-determination theory. The Hexad model was shown to explain user preferences for Gameful design elements across various domains and thus can be seen as a very suitable tool for personalizing Gameful applications. Now the question is, how can such Hexad user types be assessed? And the answer is that there actually is a validated survey consisting of 24 items being rated on 7-point scales to assess the Hexad user type. However, when considering a Gameful app like the one presented before, it seems quite impractical to use such a survey and ask users to fill it out before using the app, as this likely affects the immersion as well as the Gameful experience of the system negatively. To counter this, we investigate whether and how Hexad user types can be assessed in a Gameful way without breaking the immersion and the Gameful experience of a system. To do this, we realized 2 Gameful applications, Cloud Clicker and Snowball Shooter. In Cloud Clicker, users are asked to decide which statement is more important to them in each of 15 rounds in total and receive Gameful feedback when making their choice. In Snowball Shooter, users are confronted with several gamification elements like points, unlockables, achievements, virtual character and a leaderboard, and they can freely decide with which Gameful design elements they would like to interact with by shooting snowballs on virtual items to make progress in the corresponding game element. We hypothesized that the Gameful applications can both be used to predict Hexad user types, or more specifically, that the score of the statements in Cloud Clicker is correlated to the Hexad user type, and that the amount of interactions with the Gameful elements in Snowball Shooter is correlated to the corresponding Hexad user types. And secondly, we expected that the Gameful experience is better in both applications than when filling out the Hexad questionnaire. The procedure looked like this. So participants were first asked to fill out the Hexad questionnaire and then were asked to report their perception of filling it out using the intrinsic motivation inventory as well as the immersion subscale of the player experience inventory. Next, they interacted with both Gameful applications, Cloud Clicker and Snowball Shooter, in a random order. And after interacting with each Gameful applications, they again filled out the intrinsic motivation inventory as well as the immersion subscale of the player experience inventory. Overall, we had 147 participants in an online study, 49% self-reported as female, 49% as male, 0.7% as non-binary, and 1.3% preferred not to answer this question. The mean age was 33 years, and the Hexad user types distribution was very similar to the validation study of the Hexad questionnaire. Now, coming to the results, to analyze whether there is a relationship between the interaction behavior in Cloud Clicker and the Hexad questionnaire, we conducted a canonical correlation analysis, which is preferable when analyzing the association strength between 2 sets of variables and allows to evaluate the multivariate shared variance between them. The figure shows the structure coefficients. It can be seen that there are substantial factor loadings on the same canonical functions and that the shared variance between the statements in the Gameful application and the Hexad user types is pretty high, with an R-squared of 74.37%. This shows that the interaction in Cloud Clicker actually corresponds or is strongly related to the Hexad user types. And taking these results together, we see those as supporting evidence for the first hypothesis, H1A. Now, when looking at the interaction behavior in Snowball Shooter, we see that the shared variance is much lower, with an R-squared of 34.11%. However, we found that there is still a moderate amount of shared variance, so indicating that the interaction behavior in Snowball Shooter is associated with the Hexad user type. This is also supported by correlations between Hexad user types and Gameful design elements. We see that users indeed tended to interact with those Gameful design elements that correspond to their Hexad user type. This is quite interesting because previous work did not consider correlations between actual user behavior or interaction and Hexad user types, but only considered textual descriptions or storyboards. So these results do not fully support H1B. When analyzing the user experience, we see that there was a significant effect on the intrinsic motivation inventory factors pressure, enjoyment, as well as on the immersion subscale of the player experience inventory. So enjoyment and immersion was expected and shows that a gameful approach could be a good way to assess user types in gameful applications in an enjoyable way and without breaking the immersion of a gameful application. Taking these findings together, we see those as supporting evidence for the second hypothesis. And to sum up, we presented two gameful applications and showed that there are advantages in terms of the gameful experience and immersion as compared to filling out the Hexad questionnaire. And we also saw that the interaction behavior actually corresponds to a user's Hexad type. And with this, I'd like to conclude and thank you for your attention. And I would be really happy about your feedback and taking your questions.